The year is 1326. A man stands trembling before the howling crowd, his crimes read aloud for all to hear. Behind him, the executioner tests the edge of his blade. This is no common criminal. This is Hugh le Despenser the Younger, once the most powerful man in England after the king himself. How did a royal advisor reach such heights of power, only to fall so spectacularly? And why, centuries later, do Welsh villagers still whisper of cursed treasures hidden among their hills? Hugh le Despenser's story is one of unbridled ambition and ruthless cunning. As King Edward II's favorite and closest advisor, Despenser wielded extraordinary influence over the realm. But it was not enough. His insatiable greed would transform him from trusted counselor to the most reviled man in England. Unlike most nobles who accumulated wealth through military service or royal grants, Despenser pioneered a new path to riches, one paved with forgery and murder. He established a network of corrupt officials who forged land deeds, transferring vast estates to his possession. When wealthy landowners stood in his way, they mysteriously disappeared or met with fatal accidents. Court records that survived reveal over 30 suspicious deaths connected to Despenser's territorial expansion. In the Welsh marches, Despenser's tactics were particularly brutal. He seized the profitable Gower Peninsula from its rightful claimant through judicial manipulation. The Lord of Gower, John de Mowbray, challenged Despenser's claim, only to be imprisoned and executed for treason on trumped-up charges. What made Despenser especially dangerous was his calculated approach to corruption. He didn't just seize land, he undermined the entire legal system. Using his position as royal chamberlain, he intercepted petitions to the king, ensuring that complaints against him never reached royal ears. He placed his own men in key positions, creating a shadow government that answered only to him. Perhaps most chilling was Despenser's method of extortion. He would imprison wealthy individuals on fabricated charges, then offer freedom in exchange for their lands and wealth. Lady Elizabeth Comyn, niece of the former king, was forced to sign over her estates while held captive by Despenser's men, a crime specifically mentioned during his eventual trial. By 1326, Despenser had amassed a fortune that rivaled the crown's. His greed knew no bounds. He even pirated merchant ships, claiming their goods as royal customs. When the merchants complained, they found themselves facing Despenser's corrupt judges and fabricated charges. The turning point came when Queen Isabella and her ally Roger Mortimer invaded England in September 1326. Landing in Suffolk with a small force, they expected resistance. Instead, they were met by cheering crowds, eager to overthrow the hated Despenser regime. As they marched westward, the royal army melted away, with soldiers refusing to fight for the despised royal favorite. King Edward and Despenser fled to Wales, hoping to raise support among Despenser's territories. But the Welsh, who had suffered greatly under his rule, offered no sanctuary. In November, they were captured near Neath Abbey. The king was imprisoned, while Despenser was taken to Hereford for trial. His execution on November 24, 1326, was designed to make a statement. Contemporary accounts describe how Despenser was dragged behind horses to the gallows wearing a crown of nettles. There, the full horror of his punishment began. He was hanged from a gallows 50 feet high, but cut down while still alive. Before his eyes, his executioners cut off his genitals and burned them, then removed his heart and entrails. Finally, his body was beheaded and quartered, the parts sent to 4 corners of the realm as a warning. Yet the story doesn't end with Despenser's death. Across South Wales, legends persist of hidden treasures, gold and jewels supposedly buried by Despenser as he fled the Queen's forces. These cursed treasures are said to bring misfortune to anyone who discovers them. In the 15th century, these tales gained new life during the Wars of the Roses, when Welsh families aligned themselves with either York or Lancaster, partly based on old grievances dating back to Despenser's land seizures. The Despenser inheritance became a source of conflict for generations. His methods of acquiring land through forgery created lasting confusion over property rights. Villages found themselves with competing landlords, each claiming ownership through different chains of title. In the turbulent 15th century, these disputes erupted into violence, with local lords using the chaos of civil war to settle old scores. Perhaps most fascinating is how Despenser's legacy influenced Welsh resistance to English authority. His abuse of power became a cautionary tale, cited by Welsh rebels as proof of English corruption. When Owain Glyndwr launched his rebellion in 1400, his supporters invoked Despenser's name as a symbol of everything wrong with English rule. What began as one man's greed cast a long shadow over Welsh-English relations. The saying that emerged in South Wales, like Despenser's gold, "Power corrupts all who touch it," speaks to the enduring impact of his brief but devastating reign of terror. 7 centuries later, the ruins of Caerphilly Castle still stand as a monument to Despenser's ambition. It was here, in one of his many strongholds, that he plotted his land grabs and political manipulations. And it is here, according to local legend, that his ghost still walks, eternally counting gold coins that slip through his spectral fingers. In the end, Hugh le Despenser's story is more than just a tale of medieval corruption. It is a warning about the corrosive effects of unchecked power, a lesson that resonated through the centuries and continues to echo today.